group, HKSAG, is founded by NYU students involved with student engagement within NYU and NYC region. Our objective is to advocate for democracy, human rights, and any other political issues affecting Hong Kong. So hi, my name is Alexandra, and I'm going to be speaking in English for the Hong Kong Student Advocacy Group. We thank everyone for coming out here today to stand with Hong Kong. We stand here in solidarity with the protesters, friends, family members back home. We stand here in solidarity against oppressors looking to erase democracy and fundamental rights from Hong Kong. We stand here in solidarity against the police brutality that has caused universities to become battlegrounds, that has caused children to write their last words, that has caused journalists to be diagnosed with chloracne from overexposure to tear gas. We may be far from home, but we hope they hear our support. We do not represent all protesters. It is impossible to make that claim, and we do not want to make that claim. Hong Kong has risen up in leaderless and decentralized solidarity, and we're in this together. But we cannot speak for everyone. We can only speak for our beliefs and what we want for Hong Kong. The demands must be met. We condemn the police brutality and systematic abuse of power, and we seek accountability. We remember Alex Deltilog, the 22-year-old student who succumbed to his injuries sustained falling one story in a car park after police prevented paramedics from treating him on time. We remember Tan Yin Lam, the 15-year-old student who was found drowned and naked in the sea by the police, and her case was instantly closed despite the suspicious circumstances. Remember the women sexually assaulted, raped, and forced to have abortions by the police, who then seized their medical records trying to discredit their accusations. We remember the civilians in Yuen Long Station who were attacked indiscriminately by triads inside MTR cars and abandoned by the police on July 21st, who knew about the planned attack in advance. The Hong Kong police have indiscriminately fired tear gas into enclosed subway stations, into apartment buildings, and at journalists and medics. The police have fired live rounds at an 18-year-old in the chest and a 14-year-old in the thigh from point-blank range, planted weapons on arrested protesters, and disguised themselves as protesters to provoke conflict. The police have tackled young people wearing black and arrested school children as young as 12. They have referred to protesters as cockroaches in need of eradication. The protester that they kicked on the ground as a yellow object, and local universities as cancer cells. SCP media reports that only yesterday, day before, that police yelled at protesters that the police want a repeat of Tiananmen Square. The Hong Kong police force have gone too far. They break the rule of law and impose their own control as if Hong Kong were a police state. They must be held accountable by independent investigation, and this abuse of power cannot continue. We believe in freedom of speech, assembly, petition, religion, and expression. The Hong Kong government ignored the people when they were peaceful. Non-violent protests have not been acknowledged, and those protesters have been arrested and physically injured despite their non-violence. We understand why some protesters have felt the need to turn to more extreme actions. Though we do not condone any harming of civilians and innocents, we will stand with the protesters. We see protesters acting in self-defense. We see them acting independently and holding themselves accountable. Look at the protesters who bowed to civilians and apologized for holding up the airport, though they did not make the decision to shut it down. Look at the protesters who apologized for inconveniencing the office workers after protests blocked the roads, though the point of protest is to inconvenience the system. Look at the protesters who washed out the eyes of animals affected by tear gas while the Hong Kong police force fired at civilians and animals indiscriminately. Look at the protesters who volunteered to clean up the Kowloon Mosque and church, sprayed by the police's blue dye water cannon. Look at the Hong Kongers standing with the protesters, office workers protesting during lunch breaks, civilians opening their doors to protesters fleeing cops, the flood of cars who went to pick up stranded protesters, who brought supplies to CUHK and PolyU in their time of need. This movement is comprised of individuals who see problems and want to help fix them. It is comprised of individuals who are willing to sacrifice themselves for a better future. It's comprised of individuals who have differing opinions and methodology or will take issue with different incidents, but will ultimately stand together. Instead of withdrawing the bill when 2 million people marched in protest, instead of finding a solution now, the Hong Kong government has taken to banning masks, black clothing, and glass bottle recycling, hoping that the protests will peter out. But we will stand strong. The mask ban was found unconstitutional today by the High Court, so hopefully that does not continue. We want the promised eventual dual universal suffrage to elect representatives who will represent what Hong Kongers need. The fact remains that Hong Kongers are suppressed unjustly and unlawfully. The constant erosion and encroachment of basic freedoms through the Causeway Bay bookstore incident, Article 23 and the extradition bill have not convinced Hong Kongers that there is any intent from the CCP or the Hong Kong government to respect Hong Kongers. Some call us privileged to be able to speak about this overseas. Some call Hong Kongers privileged for demanding more than they already have. But I am afraid. Most people I know who support Hong Kong are afraid. District Councillor Andrew Chu's ear was bitten off when he went to defend crowds from the knife-wielding attacker who injured 6 people. Civil Human Rights Front leader Jimmy Shum was bludgeoned with hammers and hospitalized. I'm afraid for my personal safety in a place where I do have the guarantee of freedom of speech. And I speak out because I am afraid. I do not want any other Hong Konger to feel the need to hide their beliefs. We are young, yes, but the young people are fighting the hardest. We are fighting for our future. 750 of 2,379 arrested protesters from June to October are under 18. 104 are under 16. We think of CUHK students under siege on a mountain, defending themselves against campus invasions and more than 2,300 tear gas cartridges. We think of Poly U under 48-hour-long siege against water cannons laced with pepper spray and other irritants. People Liberation Army troops armed with assault rifles and Hong Kong police force shooting live rounds and arresting the wounded from ambulances. We think of Baptist, City U, and HKU. Some of us may know people there. Some of us don't. As students, we should be learning and studying for the next exam. We shouldn't be defending our home from oppressive regimes. An informed democracy is a working democracy, and to be informed, we have to start talking. Whether your RSVP for the event made it through or not, you are here because you care. We are in New York City, but we are thinking of home. There's a correct side to stand on, and that's on the side of the Hong Kongers. Thank you to NYU Law for hosting the panel and allowing activists to continue spreading awareness overseas. Thank you to everybody who has worked to make this event happen. Thank you for your time. Stand with Hong Kong.